Our next speaker, Wei, is an active early-stage investor in Silicon Valley. He has invested in over 300 Silicon Valley startups, including Checker, UniCareer, LGD, Rescale, Lime, and Hims. He was cited as a China whisperer by the Washington Post, and he's also recognized under both the venture capital and big money startups categories of the Forbes 30 Under 30. In 2018, Wei was ranked as the #3 top 50 angel investors by Forbes. Now, please join me in welcoming Wei Guo and moderator Zhou Zhou, Director of Outreach at BSCM 2019.
All right, how's everyone's afternoon? Sleepy? Good? Excited? All right, good. So yeah, we have Wei here, and let's start with introducing yourself and also the UpHonest Capital to the audiences.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. And I'll start with my firm. So I'm the founding partner of UpHonest Capital. We are a global VC firm. Focused on early stage. We have been active past 5 years with around 350 portfolio companies, including almost all the industries. And yeah, that's it. And about myself, I was born and raised in China and went to Singapore for high school. Came here in 2008, and I was majoring entrepreneurship. I don't know if you guys know that major, but it was an amazing major. You know, it taught you how to do business, how to fundraising, how to write a pitch, how to write a deck. The problem with that major was it's almost not possible to find a job after that.
It is.
So I was one of this kind of international student that couldn't find a job. And I started my fund right after school by using friends, my own money, and then raised my first fund from my friends, and then just been fortunate with work with some world classic VC firms from Asia, and you know, they are supporting our fund. We now manage $150 million, and some of our well-known deals are companies like Lime, Hims, Boom is the supersonic aircraft, and Zenridge, yeah.
Yeah, great. So we talk a little bit about venture investments. So I think some of you guys might know venture VCs are a very regional business. So maybe in order to assess a business or a company, you have to look at different aspects, like the people, and also the culture, and even the language. So considering your international background from China as well as Singapore, why do you do VC here in Silicon Valley?
So first of all, I think VC is not a regional job. I think it's a very globalized job. You have to do research everywhere, especially nowadays. We saw this globalization trend. Globalization is accelerating so fast. It used to be once you have an idea in Silicon Valley and you did same thing in China, you can grow the business quickly. And nowadays it's not possible. So I think having this global background I can learn from different part of the world, and then I can apply this global knowledge into different business. So we did research about recent public companies. There's a lot of consumer product. They start having this globalization characters since day one. So companies like hardware companies, when you start IoT companies, you have to have China connection to help your manufacture. If you want to, start software companies in let's say Southeast Asia, you have to, you have to have local connections, because in Southeast Asia it's very connection-driven places. So I think VC it's not a regional business; it's more globalized business. What's your second question?
And also, in terms of globalization, why do you choose to be in Silicon Valley?
I think it's pretty obvious. Like Silicon Valley is still the center of global innovation, right? Like almost almost all the big innovation come out from Silicon Valley, and I think it's also because it has the best community here. We're early stage investors, so we kind of want to see different people from different countries, but they all gather in Silicon Valley. So. As early investor, we look at the team, look at the founders, so I think this is still the best place, right? It's just a matter if you want to go back to your own market, your own country, your own market, or stay here, right?
Great. So actually, I did some research, and 2/3 of venture capital's money in the United States actually come from endowments or pension funds. And as a cross-border fund for UpHonest, what are some of the difficulties that you faced as a cross-border fund when doing some fundraising?
Doing fundraising itself, I think we're facing challenges every single day. I don't think fundraising is ever a problem for us, because I think beside the traditional fundraising paths, there's new fundraising paths came out recently. I'll give you an example, like, China, the Asia's internet has been booming the last 5 to 10 years and create a lot of new wealth. And these people, they understand Silicon Valley, they inspired by the whole Silicon Valley, so they are willing to invest a lot of Silicon Valley companies, right? They become a new way of fundraising. And plus, there's a lot of traditional businessmen. They are trying to merge with this internet era, so they can use their capital, to deploy into the entrepreneurial world. So we never thought about that fundraising as a global VC firm. It's hard. But I'll just add on. I think now is an awkward time for a lot of global VCs just because of trading war. But we'll be fine, I guess.
Yeah, surely. So VC are considered to be, one of the best investment manager type in terms of asset return. VC do look for very high return, 10x or 100x. And some of them are usually lying in some undiscovered or relatively newer markets. I know a lot of you here are looking to become an investor in the future. So what are some of the newer frontier that you think will be a sexy field for VC investments?
I think I agree with you. Almost all the good companies we invest there come from very dark or shadow area, like minority, which you look like little tiny thing, like you never believe it's gonna happen. So I'll give you an example. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, there's a company in Hollywood came to me, asking the first check. They want to do a new type of pop culture in Hollywood, called Asian pop culture. So I was like, what's the difference between Asian pop culture and the mainstream pop culture? Like he gave me this whole theory of why the Asian community is getting bigger, and I couldn't understand that because at the time I still focused on tech investment, and that company quickly become so popular. The company name is 88 Rising. I don't know if you heard about that company, 88 Rising. So all this. So I was like, the Asian community for me at that time was too small. I think pop culture, hip hop culture was too small. I grew up in China, I listen all this popular music, they're not that hip hop. So I was thinking that EDM gonna be bigger, right? So I passed that deal. Nowadays it's they're a big deal, right? So I think all the companies come very small industry. You just have to believe this entrepreneur, and you have to believe it's very small in the day one, maybe the first year. So they have to, keep raising money and, make it happen. And yeah.
Great. So I think being a partner at a fund requires a lot of time management. Say, for example, VC everyday work that VC investors do include sourcing and research, accessing the market, and also talking to lots of different founders and a lot of people work. So how do you manage your time in terms of having different expectations every day?
So I think our firm our firm is growing every day, but I think we're still a young firm, even though we invest so many companies. So back a few years ago, I loved spend a lot of time with connecting people. We host different parties in here in China, and so I know a lot of party places at that time. And then it turns out that you can find a lot of interesting people, but it's not easy to communicate with them very well. So I think nowadays most of my time, I spend a lot of my time with my team, and try to just find a quiet place, think through myself, read some books. So spend maybe half of my time with my teams, and another 30% of my time to think myself. Let me just drive and think myself, and reading different books from different industries, from different group of people, right? The recent book I'm reading are written by an American author called Death of Salesman. It's pretty interesting. So I love all these books that help me to understand the culture, business culture. Another 10% of my time, I love to go out and just meet some interesting people. Yeah.
Sure. You talk about meeting interesting people who also will be, a lot of them will be founders. So I think lots of audience here are looking to do startups right after college or even become a founder themselves. So what are your advice for those founders to be in terms of looking at your business from a VC perspective?
I think, first of all, you have to understand starting your own company is extremely hard. It's tough. Especially in the time that fundraising become more difficult, and then I think so. There's a couple of things if you want to be a VC, you have to learn. You have to learn to observe, to learn to think yourself first. I think that's number one, and then number two, try to have your own community or have your own circle, but the people who are in your circle should be from different industries. When I think back my college time, I spent a lot of time stay with same people, but that become a trouble when I go into VC industry, right? When I want to do some background check, when I want to learn new knowledge, I find it's hard, so I have to start to new social network again. And it's kind of very time consuming. For those who want to start your companies, I think the best way is just to talk to your alumni who already have their own companies, and try to meet VC or angel investors before start your own company, because it's not really that hard to find a VC or angel investor through your own network, even nowadays. I think the venture capital, become more like commodity. The real value for us is, it's realized that it's just like the connection we have as early stage investor. Yeah.
Yeah. So as an investor that has invested in more than 300 companies, I think one question will be, what's the secret sauce for you when identifying the attractive investments? Because considering 300 companies is actually a lot for a young and growing fund.
I think, 300 companies is a lot. We try to learn quickly, but to be honest, it's really hard to learn different industries, so you have to be prepared. So as I mentioned, I read a lot of books, my team read a lot of books, a lot of readings, a lot of researchers, but beyond that, you have to find the industry experts. It's as early as possible. So that's why I suggest you guys go out your own circle, try to meet with some interesting interesting people from different industries, right? And because all the innovations are come from when they just start to become a real business, they're very tiny. It's not easy to find. And I think you guys, as young professional or students, you guys have better access than us. So I think that's one thing. And yeah.
Yeah, great. So here is our next question. I want to ask it for the peer students here. I've done a couple of VC internships myself, both in Beijing and in San Francisco. And there are a lot of undergraduates who wants to do VC or just become an investor right out of college. So what would be your career advice for those audiences that are sitting down there, trying to maybe wanting to be a VC investor?
It really depends on what kind of VC. If you're very tech-driven VC, it's not easy to join them. You have to have very sophisticated domain knowledge. But good news is there's a lot of innovation happening in the consumer side, or we'll see that young people can quickly understand that. So I think advice is number one: try to follow your passion. Try to study your hobby. Right? You can still have a lot of different hobbies, but try to think of business way how this hobby can become a business. Right? So when I was younger, I played a lot of video games. I still play a lot of video games. Right? Back 2004, 2005, when the esports industry, there's no industry called esports, right? Back then, I tried to think how play video game can make money, right? And I found it's interesting that a lot of people start to make very small checks by selling their virtual weapons, this game weapons, right? And then this 10 years after, esports industry become the largest industry. But as an early stage investor, if you try to invest in a company right now, it's already become so expensive. It's not easy for us to invest. But if back 3-5 years ago, if you understand the market very well, that was the best time to invest. But for people who are outside to do a lot of outside research, it's not easy to get into the market early enough. So the best thing is, the best investor are all these people who play a lot of video games, who understand markets when the market is at very early stage.
Yeah, great. So I think the end of here is to play a lot of games and also be able to do some research based on your passion and what you are really curious about in order to become a VC investor. All right, thanks for coming.
I would say play a lot of video. Have to play a lot of video games, but just follow your hobbies and do research about your hobbies, and again think as business way.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Mike.